Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let's get started. What is your most epic quitting on the spot story? Part 5. Today is the last day of Toys R Us. Everyone shows up and we're all having a great time. There's my second manager, B, who everyone loved and who worked hard to make sure we all got better jobs. She was there as much as she could during the busy bankruptcy season. Again, we're having a great time and it doesn't bother us that the main manager we didn't like was also here on the last day. He hadn't really shown up, maybe once a week compared to B's 5 days a week, and had basically quit in the middle of the job to take a new one elsewhere, but he was still considered manager. There was going to be one big cheer. His main message was that we couldn't have our last day party. I don't even know when the change happened. Okay, whatever. After that, we'd keep going in the back of the house. 5 of us were on register when B came up crying. She grabs her purse and says something like, "I can't believe him, I need to go." We find out that he told her he was there now and that she wasn't even on the plan. That jerk. He also tried to say that people from back of the house couldn't be there. You dirty Grinch, it was our last day. After B walks out, the rest of us look at each other and I say, F it, I'm also leaving. Our real manager just left, so I'm leaving. Everyone says the same thing, and most of us have fun when we go to a taco place with B. We should have been with her because she had worked so hard. So I quit and the rest of us did too, even though it was our last day. Anyone remember the name of the shoe store where I worked as an assistant manager about a year ago? It's famous for its memory foam. In the past, it had been about a year and a half since that location first opened, and I had been working there. To get everything from the truck to the mall, I helped move it all. Then I spent days putting shoes on shelves in the back. At that point, we were a close-knit group, and I liked my job and the commission I got for making sales. Anyway, a year later, we have a new manager because the last one took time off to have a baby. I knew what kind of person he was because we went to high school together. We didn't get along well, as I did with my other managers, but at least we were polite, so it was okay. Things changed over the next 6 months, which made us try to reach impossible goals instead of teaching the staff better sales techniques when foot traffic was already low. He then made everyone work less. I can see why he would do that because the store wasn't doing as well as they had hoped, but he would never think about the other staff members' school, work, or other obligations. I'd keep going, but this is getting too long. To get to the point, I came in one night for my 4-hour closing shift after having my hours cut in half, and he pushed me to the back. He's mad at me because when he got to work that morning, the shelves were already stocked. Yep, while the staff was very small that week, we got a huge shipment. I hadn't had time to put it all away when I first got it. He didn't put any of it away the next day, of course, so that night I had put most of it away since it was dead and there were 2 of us working. Leaving boxes in the aisles is also very dangerous for people's safety. He did ask me to stay on the floor that night, but why am I getting paid to stand there and clean a spotless store with my salesperson when I could be doing something useful and going outside when customers are coming in? He was right in front of me, giving me crap and telling me I should have listened to him. That's when it hit me. I don't need this crap. I don't need this high school jerk telling me I have to do what he says. He was rude to his employees and I told him straight out that I didn't like it. I also told him that he could have fun closing the store by himself. When I left that mall, I didn't know what would happen next, but I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders because I knew I wouldn't have to be miserable anymore. It honestly helped kick my A into gear. I moved to a new city and began a new life. My advertising degree was sitting idle at a shoe store until I got a job. There's no such thing as a perfect job, and not every day is perfect either, but the satisfaction of working hard at something that doesn't suck the life out of you 100% of the time is something I'm thankful for. In the early 2000s, I got a temporary job putting computers in schools in a nearby big city. The company that got the job fired the project manager before they hired my brother, me, and a few other people who became good friends. There were still 2 installers left, and they kind of S-ly showed us what we needed to do on site and gave us a printout of the job schedule when we got to the warehouse. Took us a week to do this. Actually, going to schools I went to not too long ago. It was set up so that the switches and patch panels were in a lockbox in each classroom, but we never got a key. The only people in the company we knew told us to run the cables to the box, but we'll have someone else unlock it and plug them in. A few weeks later, the company sends us a faxed letter angry that we haven't cut off the Ethernet runs to the switch. We call back and say that we don't have the keys and what they told us. Then they send us 1 key that works for all 6 of us split into 3 teams. We pay our own money to make copies. After a week, someone new is hired and is put on one of the teams to ride with every day. Doesn't matter that he's not smart and talks too much. He comes in on a Monday after 2 weeks and tells us he's our new manager. He's been testing us and working with us behind our backs for the past 2 weeks. He likes us, but then he tells the whole team about things we talked about behind closed doors. It's also not work-related. It's just a repeat of private talks we had with him. I think he wanted to show how well he can listen. No one knows. Then he yells at us for being so far behind. Even though the team wasn't even half as good as it was supposed to be, we had to go back to the schools to finish ending the Ethernet before we got the keys and other things. We all walked, had breakfast at Denny's, and laughed at the whole show. After a few days, we got emails threatening lawsuits that never happened and telling us to return the keys we paid for because the person who sent them lost them. That night, after drinking all day, we burned our copies in a bonfire. A school friend told me that 6 months later, his wife's IT company won the contract after the school district fired them. They kinda stopped doing any more work after we all left. What is your tale of the HOA from H, Part 5? There has long been a reputation among our homeowners association for being cunning and making outright untrue charges. Particularly with the security cameras of today, we can identify the investigators with relative ease. Most recently, a homeowner was informed that she needed permission before beginning to reshingle her roof. The issue is, she had no intention of reshingling her roof, which hasn't been done in 10 years. Similar things, label it as malicious or just an error. Well, we had our moment to shine a few years ago. It was an ordinary morning. At the time, I was still spending a temporary stay with my father. When we went outside to get groceries one morning, we discovered that his pickup truck had been hit. It was just smashed into, nothing was taken. When the police arrived and started looking into it, they discovered that the rock inside the truck belonged to a house across the street. Sadly, they were unable to identify them as the perpetrators or even convince them to confess. It makes sense that the thieves would take anything they find, but something seemed off. The rock, I should say, was a unique variety, some round, polished kind that nobody else in the neighborhood had. Incredibly distinctive. I put in a security camera on his house after this incident. Not even 2 days had passed when we received an HOA violation for an eyesore on the car that needed to be fixed. Only after 2 days. Though I'm not sure how quickly such a letter could have been written, I began to suspect foul play. We were at home one day when there was a knock on the door. In fact, a code inspection officer was called by the HOA. The parts to fix the truck hadn't arrived yet because the week hadn't even ended. Since we weren't paying for expedited shipping for damages we didn't cause, and because the truck was so old, insurance would probably just total it. He wasn't going to get rid of it because it was sentimental to him. It continued to function flawlessly. My father learned from code inspection that non-running vehicles must be removed. They paused their conversations, give each other a moment, and then nearly say the same thing. "Don't I know you?" Turns out that my father and the code inspection officer were acquainted and attended the same church. The officer threatens to report the truck as being in code if my father cannot demonstrate that it starts. Since there's no damage to the engine, my father can start the truck just fine. He wishes him a good day and tells him to carry on with his day. We're now very angry because we're beginning to believe that the HOA may have been involved even though there's no way they could have known so quickly. Sadly, until I installed one on our home, there was no security cameras on the neighbor's side of the street, so nothing specifically related to our incident was captured by them. These individuals are said to have broken into a car down the street as well, but their house cameras captured nothing. Oh no! Here's where the good times start. After a few months went by with nothing happening, I made the decision to replace the dash cam in my car. I discovered a decent one that requires very little power from the battery and can activate even when the car's not running. It's a thinkware that simply needs to be connected directly to the battery for this to work. A few days later, we receive a violation notice for having an uneven mailbox. It wasn't very crooked, but I seem to recall that it had an angle recently. Strangely, I could easily fix it, but my car was pointed directly at the mailbox. I'm thinking, there's no way this could be true. It only records when something bumps. When I remove the memory card, it appears that I either didn't set it up properly or it was always recording. It never entered sleep mode. I observed the investigator approaching the mailbox, pushing it in an uneven manner, recording his observations on his tablet, and taking a photo for documentation. What I see disgusts me. I now have the essential proof. They thus requested that we attend the board meeting and give a report on the situation at our address. Let me quickly summarize how the HOA operates. The board employs an outside company, Bentry Management, to handle the grunt work. We haven't told them that we have the pictures yet. We enter the meeting and take a seat. The person in charge of our account is Bentry Management, and I can assure you that she resembled Karen, so the name is appropriate. We talk about what's going on at our house as the meeting goes on. 2 days after we inform them about the truck being smashed and show them the timelines, we receive a letter. We find out which dates the investigator was absent during that period. Karen declines to respond to it. As if it were our fault, she naively suggests that we keep better care of our stuff. The mailbox incident follows. We inform her that we have grounds to suspect that the investigator is the one harassing us and causing damage to our property. Karen disputes this, stating that she personally knows him and that it is not possible. Oh, is that accurate? I inquire. Yes, why? Is her response. After that, I take my laptop from the book bag I had been hiding, open it, and show the board the already loaded video file. Enter Exhibit A. I played the video and said it out loud. Karen had a flaming red face. That is not her investigator, she claims. The letter about the mailbox, complete with a date, was the next item I took out. Corresponds with the video's cooked on timestamp. She continues to insist that it's not them. No, it's a coincidence. I'm sorry, but you have a vandal and it's not us. Is it not? Well, I clicked on the video even though I knew she was about to fall into a deep abyss. Bentry Management is clearly visible on the man's shirt as he approaches my car. She's white as a ghost now, not red like before. The board turns to face her and inquires about her thoughts on the matter. Karen doesn't say anything and only makes a few noises, which I assume are her brain's attempt to process what happened. I then go on to discuss a prior incident involving a grass violation next to our house that I just so happened to recall before we left for the meeting. Now, because of the shape of the house, this area they were claiming was not actually visible from the sidewalk. I questioned directly, has at any time your investigators walked on our property illegally trespassing, knowing that's against their rules? Now clearly trembling, Karen mumbles, "No, of course not," while lowering her head and losing eye contact with me. She probably believes I have more proof, but sadly I didn't. I thus ask one more. Why? She queries. Speaking literally next door to us where this wall was, our neighbor, who is a lawyer, gets up and corrects us, saying, "Actually, that's not true. I've witnessed one of your investigators go between our houses and poke around the trash bins." Success! It couldn't have come at a better time. I had no idea she knew this information. At this point, Karen just starts arguing about the lack of proof with our neighbors. The board then extends their apology for the incident and says they will talk about what will happen in the future. It ends the meeting at that point. After a month, we receive a letter informing us that new investigators and a new person will oversee Bentry Management. That evening, she was let go. My father tells me that since she was fired, the errors have only happened sporadically, but they're fixed right away and don't really bother us anymore. If you want to watch the part 4, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, the likes and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for your support.